In this video, we're going to cover 12 awesome use cases for Notion buttons that you might not have thought of before. Notion buttons have been around for a while, but recently I've noticed that a lot of people aren't using them to their full potential. There's actually almost infinite ways to use buttons to streamline your workspace, and in this video, that's what we're going to explore. So here is a little preview of the buttons that we're going to be building in today's video. So the first one is the focus mode button. So this is a button that you'll want to use with your task list. So here I've just got an example task list where we have the name of the task, we've set a priority, the due date, and then just a checkbox so you can check off the task once it's complete. So the focus mode button is going to hide tasks that have a low or a medium priority, and it's going to only show you the high priority tasks that you can focus and get them done. So let me just show you how it works. So if we click the focus mode button, as you can see, it removes all tasks that are not high priority. So this is going to allow you to focus just on those high priority tasks so you can get them done. And then after you've completed them, or if you want to switch off focus mode, you can click the switch off focus mode button, and that will just add back in all of the other tasks that you have due today with low or medium priority. So this one's actually quite easy to set up. So you do need to add one more property to the database. So you're going to need to add one more property, which is a checkbox property, and name it focus mode. So you can just use this plus symbol here to add another property and just type in checkbox and select this one. And once you've added that into the table, you don't actually need to see it. So you can just click on here and hide it in this view, but it does need to exist in this table for these buttons to work. So now I'm just going to show you how to replicate these buttons. So we're going to firstly just type in /button to grab a new button, and this one is going to be our focus mode button. So I'm just going to type that in, and I'm also just going to select an icon as well. Let's just go with this target symbol. So we're going to click on add an action to tell the button what we want it to do, and we actually want this button to edit the pages within our task list database. So I'm going to select this option, and then you just want to select the database of whatever your task list is. So I've just got this database here, which is my example for this video. So here it's going to say edit all pages, but you actually don't want to edit all the pages. So you want to click on here, and it's going to allow you to add a filter so we can select which pages we actually want it to edit. And in this case, we only want to edit pages where the priority is either medium or low. So I'm going to click on here. We're going to select the priority select property, which is this property here, and we only want to edit pages where that is either low or medium. So you are going to need a similar property in your task list. So now that we've got that filter, when we click this button, whatever we set it to do, it's only going to apply that to tasks where the priority is medium or low. And what we actually want it to do is we want to edit a property, and we're going to edit that focus mode checkbox that we just added, and we want it to set it to checked once this button is clicked. So this button is simply just going to check the checkbox of focus mode on pages that match this filter. So I'm just going to click done. And you also need to do one other thing on this table to ensure that this button works. So you actually need to add a filter, and you just need to add this filter here, which is where focus mode is unchecked. So we're only going to see tasks where focus mode is unchecked. So just make sure you have that in your table. And then when you click this button, it will simply remove the medium and low priority tasks. But obviously you want to be able to switch this focus mode off once you're done. So we need to add this switch off focus mode button. So I'm just going to add another button here, and I'm just going to name it switch off focus mode. And I'm also just going to add a symbol here as well. And we're going to add this X, but I actually want it to be red like I've got here. So if you click on here, you can actually select a color. So let's change it to red and go with this cross. And for the action, we want it to edit pages in. Again, select the same database below, your task database. And in this case, you actually want it to edit all of the pages, and the property that you want to edit is again going to be the focus mode checkbox. And in this case, you just want to make all of them unchecked. And I'm just going to click done. And I actually also want the text on here to be red as well. So if you click on these 6 dots here and select color, you can actually change it to red text. So it looks like this. So now I'm going to click the switch off focus mode button, and that's simply just going to re-add all of my other tasks for today back into the list. So that is our first use case. Just before we jump back to the tutorial, I want to let you know about my second brain template. This powerful productivity system is the best way to organize your tasks, notes, projects, and goals, and is based on productivity methods that actually work. Hundreds of people have already purchased the template and are now more productive than ever. It also has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. I'll leave a link in the description box box below if you're interested. That's all, back to the tutorial. The next one is this Reschedule Overdue Tasks button. So again, I've got the exact same database down here, and this button will simply change the due date of any tasks that are overdue to today's date. So this allows you to easily reschedule all of your overdue tasks to today's date. It's going to save you time so you don't have to go through all of the different due dates and manually update them yourself. So as you can see, these are the overdue tasks. Today is the 25th, so these dates have now passed, and if I simply click this button, they're going to disappear from my overdue tab, and if I now click on my today tab, you'll see them appearing here in today's list. So let's just undo that. So I've put them back to what they were, and now I'm going to show you how to add this button. So I'm going to type /button to grab the button, and let's just name this one Reschedule Overdue Tasks and select an icon. Let's go with this one. So we're going to click on add an action, and again this one is going to edit pages in our task database, so just select your own task database. And we don't want it to edit all of the pages, we actually just want it to edit pages where the due date is now passed. So I'm going to click on here to add a filter, and we want to change this here to the due property, which is the date property, and we want to select is before today. So the due date is before today, so essentially it's just grabbing any overdue tasks. And the property that we want to edit is again going to be the due date so that we can update it. And I'm going to set it to date triggered. So what this means is the date triggered is going to be the date when you've clicked this button. So if I click this button today, it's simply just going to replace the date in our due date property with today's date. So whenever you click that button, that's the date that it's going to input into this property, which is essentially always going to be today's date. So I'm going to click done. And if I now click this button, as you can see, the tasks disappear from our overdue tab and they now appear here in today's tab. And if you're enjoying the video so far, then I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, as I do upload new Notion tutorials every week. The next use case is a duration tracker. So these buttons allow you to clock in and clock out to track the duration of something. So there's many different use cases for a duration tracker. You could do something like a sleep tracker, which is going to track how long you're sleeping, a running tracker to track how long your run is, or a work timesheet to track how long it takes you to complete different tasks. I do actually have a video where I show you how to build a work timesheet, so check that out. I'll leave a link in the description box. In this example, I've actually set up a sleep tracker. So as you can see, each time that you log an entry, it will show up here. It will show the time that you went to bed, the time that you woke up, and then this formula here will actually work out how many hours you slept for. So this is what you'll need to set up to begin. So just add a new table. You'll want to add two different date properties. So these are simply just date properties, as you can see. And you'll also want to add this formula property to work out the duration. So let me just show you what that formula looks like. So we're using this dateBetween function to simply work out the time between the time that you woke up, the time that you went to bed. The units is minutes, so essentially it's going to work out how many minutes there are between these two times, and then I'm dividing that by 60 just so that we can get the actual hours that you slept. I will paste this formula in the description box below so that you can just copy and paste it if you want to build a sleep tracker like this one. So to automate this, I've set up these two buttons which will essentially just fill this entire thing out for you. So what you'll do is when you're going to bed, you can get the Notion app up on your phone and you can click the time to sleep button just as you're getting into bed, and that's going to add a new entry and it's going to fill out the time went to bed property, as you can see. Then when you wake up, you can grab your phone, open up the Notion app and click the wake up button, and then that is going to automatically fill out the time woke up property, and then the sleep duration formula will automatically be worked out for you. So let me just manually alter this. So I've just manually altered these times to show you how it would look. So that is essentially how it would work. So now I'll show you how to actually build these buttons. So we're going to firstly add a new button, and this one is going to be the time to sleep button, which you're going to click as you're getting into bed at night, and you can give it an icon. Let's just go with this thought bubble. So this button is actually going to add a new page to our sleep tracker database. So I'm going to select add page 2, and the database is going to be the sleep tracker. So firstly we want to fill out the name property, which is this property here. So I'm simply just going to call that new entry, and then we want to edit another property, and we actually want to edit the time went to bed property, and we're going to set that to the time triggered. So essentially when you click the button, it's just going to input the date and time of when you clicked it into the time went to bed property here. So that's all we need to do. So I'm just going to click done. So now when I click this button, it's going to add a new entry, as you can see. So now let's build the wake up button to fill out this property when we wake up. So I'm going to add another button and just call it wake up, and again pick an icon. Let's just go with this sun icon. So this one for the action, instead of adding a new page, we need it to edit this existing page. So I'm just going to click on here and select edit pages in, and again just select the same sleep tracker database. So firstly we actually need to add a filter. So I don't want it to edit all of the pages within the database, otherwise it's just going to replace the time woke up in every single one of these entries. So we actually just want it to edit the one that is empty. So I'm going to click on here to add a filter, and we want to filter where the time woke up property, which is this one, and I'm going to set this to is empty. So as you can see, the only one that is empty is the new one that we've just added because we've not completed this record yet. So it's only going to edit the ones where it's empty, which is just going to be that one record. And then we want to edit a property, and we want to edit our time woke up property, and again we just want to set that to time triggered. So when you click on the button, it's just going to input the date and time of when you clicked it into this box here. So that's all we need to do. So I'm going to click done, and when I click the wake up button, as you can see, it simply is just going to populate that in here. Obviously I've only done 2 minutes of sleep, so it's a really weird number, but normally it would look something more like this. So that is a sleep tracker, but as I said, you could actually just use the exact same concept for a running tracker, a work timesheet, or anything else that you want to track the duration of. The next use case is bulk adding cover photos to a database. So this button here is simply just going to bulk add a cover photo to every single page within a database. There are a couple more steps that I'm going to show you. So in the example, let's say you have a recipes database like this with tons of different recipes in it, but you want to add just one cover photo that is going to appear on every single card just to make it look a little bit more aesthetic. It would take a long time to manually go through each of these and pick a cover photo, so we can actually add one to every page with just a couple of clicks, and this button is going to help us do that. So I'm going to show you how to build the button and then the couple of steps after that you need to do just to make sure it displays correctly on the card. So firstly we're going to click on here and add a new button, and I'm just going to name it the same as this one, so it's just going to be bulk add cover photo, and I'm just going to select this photo icon as well. So one thing that we need to do before we fill out this button is on this database you actually need to click on one of the cards and make sure that you've added a URL property. So you can do that by just clicking add a property and search for this URL property here. So just make sure you've added that to the database, and you can leave it empty for now. Going back to our button, you're going to click on add an action, and again we just want it to edit pages within the database, or whichever database you want to add these cover photos to. Then we're going to click edit a property, and we want to edit this URL property that we've added, and you can simply just paste in here a link to whatever image you want to use. So let's just go onto Google and find an image that we like. So I found this image here. I think this one's quite nice, just of a knife and fork. So I'm simply just going to right click on the image, and you want to click on copy image address. You don't want to click copy link address, otherwise it's not going to work. Make sure you click copy image address, and then let's go back to Notion. And in Notion you simply just want to paste that URL to whatever picture that you found. It can be on any website on the internet. Just paste it in here, and we're going to click done. Now what you're going to do is click the button, and what that button is going to do on every single page within this database, it's going to add that URL into the URL property. So every single one you click on, it's going to be there. Now what we're going to do next is you want to click on the 6 dots next to URL and select edit property, and we actually want to change the type here, and we're going to change it to files and media. Now the reason we started off as a URL rather than files and media is because at the moment the buttons do not support the files and media option, so you can't use a button to add something to here. But if you add it as a URL, then convert it like this. You can change this name to photo if you like as well. It's simply just gonna grab the photo from that URL and place it here. So if I click on here, as you can see, it's just gonna display that image. Now what you're gonna do is click on the 3 dots here and select layout, and you just want to change the card preview here to this photo option. So this will be that files and media property that we've just created. So I'm gonna click on that, and it's simply just gonna display the photo on every single card, and it just makes it look a little bit more aesthetic than it did without. That is an easy way that you can bulk add cover photos using buttons. The next really cool use case is scheduling unscheduled tasks by simply clicking a button. So let's say this is your task list. So you might have some tasks that you've added that haven't been assigned a due date yet. So you want to quickly and easily be able to assign these tasks to a due date. So to do that, you can use this schedule tasks button. So if I click on this button, as you can see, it's going to open up my calendar, and it's also going to open up all of the unscheduled tasks in this little side peek. And what you can actually actually do, let me just go forward a month, you can simply just grab the task over here and you can just drag it on here and drop it, and it will then be assigned to a certain date. So it's a really quick and easy way. You can just drag and drop them straight onto the calendar. So now I'll show you how to set this up. So we're going to add a button here, and I'm just going to name it Schedule Tasks and select an icon. Now, before we set up this button, there are two things that you need to do. So you actually need to set up two pages that we're going to open up using this button. So the first one is going to be a calendar page. So just create another page just by typing /page and selecting this option here. And you want to firstly create a calendar page, just name it calendar, and you're simply just going to pull through your task database and set it up as a calendar. So this is just one of the database views. Then you want to set up a second page, which is going to be for your unscheduled tasks. So again, you're going to pull through your task list and you simply just want to add a filter where the due date is empty. So this is just tasks that don't have a due date. So just simply add this filter with your task list table. And once you've got those pages set up, we can actually create our button. So you want to click on add an action, and we want to select the open page or URL option. And this is going to allow us to open a page when you click this button. So it's going to firstly ask you what page you want to open. So we're simply going to type in calendar, and we want to grab that calendar page. So we want to open that page, and you want to open it as a full page. Then we're going to add another step, and again we're going to open a page, but this time we're going to open the unscheduled tasks page that we set up. But in this case, you actually want to open it as a side peek, so it'll just pop up open at the side. So the calendar will open as a full page, and the unscheduled tasks page will just open up at the side, so you can actually see them both at the same time. So we're just going to click done. So then when you click the button, it's going to open the calendar and the unscheduled tasks at the side, and then you can simply just drag them and drop them onto the calendar. It's a really, really cool use case. The next button is the end of day wrap up button, and this button is simply going to compile and display a summary of your day's accomplishments, and it's also going to reset your workspace for the next day. So let me show you exactly what that means. So firstly, we've got that same task list that I've been using as an example throughout the video, and below I've also got a morning routine that I've set up. So you might have various different checklists or things that you use throughout the day. This one is going to completely depend on you, but just as an example, I have this morning routine where throughout the morning I'll simply check off the items as I do them, so it just makes sure that I don't forget anything as part of my morning routine. So when I click the end of day wrap up button, as you can see, firstly it's going to uncheck all of the items within my morning routine, so it's essentially just resetting it so that I can use it again tomorrow. And this little side peek is going to pop up, and it's going to show me everything that I've achieved today. So it's essentially just going to show me all of the tasks that I've checked off from my task list, and it's going to tell me what time I completed those. So let me show you how to actually set up this button. So again, just add a new button, and I'm just going to name it end of day wrap up, and you can select an icon. I'm just going to go with this sun going down. So we're going to click on add an action, and firstly, as I said, I want it to actually edit the pages within my morning routine and uncheck everything in that checklist. So I'm going to click on here, and we're going to select the morning routine database, and I want it to edit a property, and it's just going to be the done checkbox. And as you can see, it's editing all of the pages within that database, and I just want it to set all of the pages back to unchecked, so it just resets it for another day. Then we actually want it to open a page showing our day's accomplishments. So you do actually need to set that page up before we can add it into the button. So I just set up a page here called today's accomplishments. So again, just add a brand new page, and you simply just want to pull through your task list, and you actually want to add a filter for where your done or your complete checkbox is checked. Therefore, it's only going to show tasks that have been completed. And you also want to add a property called task completed. So that is this property here. So let me just open this up to show you what it looks like. So it's this property here. So this property is going to show the time that you completed that task, and it's actually the last edited time. So the last time that you're going to interact with this page is when you check it off. So you can actually add a property, and you want to add this last edited time property, and then you just want to name it like this one, task completed. So you then want to make sure you add a filter for the task completed, and just make sure it's set to this day, so it's only going to show tasks that you completed today. And I've also set this up, as you can see, as a list, and I'm just showing that task completed property here. So now if we just go back inside our button, I'm going to add one more step, and it's going to be to open a page, and that page is obviously going to be our today's accomplishments page. and you just want to make sure it opens as a side peek so it doesn't take you away from the current page. So I'm just going to click done, and let's just double check that this works. So I'll firstly just check off my morning routine like this, and then if I click end of day wrap up, it's going to open up my accomplishments as you can see, and it's also unchecking my morning routine. The next button is the energy dependent task system. So this button is going to update your task list to only show tasks that match your current energy level. So here again is the same task list, but in this case I've actually added this energy level property. So for each task within your task list, you can actually set how much energy is required. So for tasks that require a lot of energy, you can set them to high energy. You've also got medium and low as well. So you can come to your task list, and then depending on how you're feeling, let's say you're feeling really low energy and you just want to see what low energy tasks you have, you can click on the low energy button, and it's simply just going to show only the low energy tasks. Maybe later on you're feeling a bit more high energy, you can select high, and it's going to replace those with just high energy tasks. And I've also got a show all button, which is just going to reset it and show all of the tasks that you have for today regardless of their energy level. So obviously firstly you're going to need to add a select property with the energy level, and you also just need to add one more property, and that's just going to be a checkbox that I've named energy. So just add one more checkbox property, name it energy. You don't have to check all of these, you can just leave them unchecked, and once you've done that, just click on it and you can hide it because you don't actually need to see it in this view. So let's start by building the hi button. So I'm going to add a button here and we're going to name it hi, and I'm also going to select an icon. Let's just go with an emoji, and we're going to go with this lightning bolt, and then we're going to click add an action, and we want this button to edit the pages within our task list database. So I'm going to select edit pages in, and I'm going to select that same database. So firstly, we don't want it to edit all of the pages, so I'm going to click on here to add a filter, and we actually only want it to edit pages where our energy level is set to high energy. And if that filter is true, then we want to edit a property, and we actually want to edit this energy property, and we simply just want to set it to checked. Then we actually want to add one more step, and it's again to edit the pages within this same database. So I'm just going to select the same one. We're going to edit a property, and again it's going to be that energy checkbox, but this time we're going to set it to unchecked. But I do need to add a filter because again I don't want it to edit all pages. In this case I only want it to edit pages where our energy level is set to either medium or low. So if the energy level is medium or low, then it's going to uncheck this checkbox, but if it is set to high, then it's going to check that checkbox. And let's just click done, and you can also change the color of this. If you click the 6 dots, select color, and you scroll down, you'll see these background colors, and let's go with green. One other thing that you need to ensure you do is you actually need to add a filter on here for our energy checkbox, and we only want to see tasks where the energy checkbox is checked. So make sure you add that to your database to ensure that the button works correctly. Once you've got that filter, if we click the hi button, as you can see, it's simply going to remove the medium and low tasks and just show you high energy tasks. Now we want to create one for medium and low so that we can replace them with the other energy levels and also the show all button. So the medium button is going to be really similar, so I'm just going to type in button and grab this, and let's just call it medium, and let's grab an emoji and let's go with the light bulb. So I'm going to add an action, and it's again going to be edit the pages within that same database. We want to add our filter so that we don't edit all pages, and in this case it's going to be where the energy level is set to medium, and if it's set to medium we want to set that energy checkbox to checked. We then want to add another step, and we want to edit pages again within the same database, and we again need to add a filter, and it's going to be where the energy level is either in this case high or low. And if it's high or low, then we want to set this energy checkbox back to unchecked so that we're only going to see the items where it's checked. In this case that will be medium. So we're going to click done. Again, I'm just going to change the color of this one. Let's go with a yellow background. And when I click the medium button, it's now going to remove the high tasks and it's going to replace it with the medium ones. Let's quickly just run through the low button. It's going to be really similar. So I'm just going to type in low, and let's just add this snail icon. We're going to add an action, again, edit the pages within the same database. We want to add a filter for this. It's where the energy level is set to low. And if it's set to low, then we want to edit the energy property, and we're going to set that to checked. We're going to add another another step, again, edit pages in the same database. You want to add a filter so that you're not editing all the pages, and it's going to be where the energy level is either high or medium. And if that is true, then we want to set the energy checkbox to unchecked. So that is what it looks like. So let's just click done. Change the color of this to red. And when you click the button, it's just going to replace it with the low energy tasks. Finally, you might want to actually reset this and show all of the tasks due today. So we're going to add this show all button under here. So I'm going to call it show all. Click on here. Let's add this arrow icon here. So I'm going to click add an action. Again, edit pages in the same database. And this time we actually don't need to add a filter. We want to edit all the pages, and we're going to edit the energy checkbox. And you just want to set that to checked. So it's going to check all of the checkboxes on all of the tasks. So let's just click done. And if I click show all, it's now just going to bring back all of the tasks. The next use case is a show or hide completed tasks button. So this button is just going to either hide or show completed tasks. There are some other use cases for this. You can get it to either show or hide just personal tasks, just work tasks, and so on. So let me just show you what this looks like. So here we have the same task list, but as you can see, a couple of these tasks have been completed. So once you've checked off some tasks, you might actually want to hide them. So you can click this hide completed tasks button, and it's simply just going to remove the tasks that have been completed. But maybe later on in the day you decide you actually want to see them, so you can click show completed tasks, and it's just going to bring them back. So as I said, you could use this in many other ways. You could get it to hide work tasks to only show personal tasks, or vice versa. You could really use this in any way you want. So before we set up these buttons, we do need to add one more property to this table. So you actually need to add another checkbox called hide. So let me just go on here and show you that. This one here. So you just want to click on the plus symbol to add a checkbox and just name it hide, and you can just leave them all unchecked. Once you've added it, you can click on here and just hide it in this view because we don't need to see it. Firstly, let's set up the hide completed tasks button. So under here, I'm just going to grab a button and I'm just going to name it hide completed tasks. And you can click on here to add an icon. I'm going to make it red so it matches the text. So I'm going to click on here and change the color to red, and we're going to select this hide icon like this. So we're going to add an action, and you actually want to edit pages within your task database, and we don't want it to edit all the pages. So we're going to click on here to add a filter, and you only want it to edit tasks where the done checkbox is checked. If you're using a status property rather than a checkbox, then you'll want to replace this with where status is complete. Whatever you're using to check off your tasks, just set it to that. So we're only grabbing completed tasks. And in this case, we're going to edit a property, and we want to grab our hide checkbox, and we're going to set that to checked. So I'm going to click done, and if you click on here, you can change the color of the text to red so it looks like the example. And one other thing you need to do to make the button work is you need to add a filter for hide is unchecked. So make sure you add that, and then once you've got that, you can click this button, and as you can see, it's simply just going to hide those completed tasks. Let's now add the show completed task button so we can bring them back. So I'm going to add a button, and it's going to be show completed tasks. And I'm going to click on the icon, and this time we're going to make it green, and we're just going to select this eye. Add an action, and again we're going to edit the pages in the same task database. And this one is going to edit all of the pages, and it's going to edit the hide property and set that to unchecked. So I'm going to click done, and you can also just change the text color here. So click on the 6 dots, select color, and change it to green text. So now when I click this button, it's just going to re-add those completed tasks back to the table. The next button that I want to share with you is the bump button, and this is going to push all of the day's incomplete tasks to the following day. So let's just say that it's the end of the day and you've still got a few tasks left. So you simply just want to change the due date to tomorrow, but you don't want to click through all of these and manually enter the date because that'll take a while. So you can simply just click the bump tasks button, and as you can see, that's just moved the due date one day. So let me just undo that. So to make this button work, you do actually need to add a couple of properties to the table beforehand. So I've just unhidden a couple of properties that were hidden. So firstly, you're going to need a date property for your due date. So when you actually create the task, you'll want to fill out this due property with the due date. You then also need to add a checkbox called bump, and you can just leave that unchecked for now. You can hide both of these properties on the table, but then you do also want to add a formula property called due date. And what this formula property is going to do is it's going to pull through the due date date from this property. But if you click this bump tasks button, it's going to check this checkbox. And if this checkbox is checked, this formula will simply just add one day to the due date, therefore bumping it to tomorrow. So let me just show you the formula. So if you want to add this yourself, as you can see, if the due date is today, therefore it's a task due today, and the bump checkbox is true, i.e. it's been checked, it's going to run this dateAdd function, which is just going to add one day to our due date. So as I said, I'll paste this in the description box below if you just want to copy and paste it into your table. So on your table, you're just going to want to show this due date property, which is the formula, rather than the date property, but you do want to fill out this when you actually add the task. So I'm just going to hide both of these in this view because we don't need to see them. And then I'm going to explain how to build our bump tasks button. So let's just add a button and I'm going to name it bump tasks. We're going to click on here, let's just set that back to black, and let's just click this arrow button. So we're going to add an action. Again, it's going to be to edit pages in our below database. And we don't want to edit all of the pages, so I'm going to click on here. And firstly, we want to check that the due date, so this original due date, is relative to today, and change this to this day. So this is just checking that the due date is today's date. Then we want to add another filter rule, and you want to make sure this is set to and, because we want both of these to be true. And we're going to change this one to our done checkbox, or whatever you're using to check if the task has been completed. And we just want to make sure that's set to unchecked, so the task is due today and it's uncompleted. So those are the filters that you want to add. And then in that case, we're going to edit a property and we're going to edit this bump checkbox, and we want to set that to checked. So it's just going to check this checkbox if the task is dated today and is not completed. So as I said, make sure this formula property is showing on your database. So when I click bump tasks, it's going to check that bump checkbox that's working in the background, and that is going to cause the due date to jump by 1. The next use case is building a counter. So this button is going to act like a counter, and it's going to add 1 to a total each time it's clicked. Now there are so many different use cases for a counter. Here's just a few that I've come up with. You could have a water tracker that tracks how much water or how many glasses of water you've drank that day. You can track how many books you've read. So every time you read a new book, you can add 1. You can use it to track habits. You can use it as a days without, so e.g. days without caffeine, you can just click it every day. You could use it as a workout streak. There are just so many different ways that you could use this. So let me just show you how it works. So here is the actual counter. It's currently set to 0. If I click the +1 button, it's a little bit slow, but it is going to add 1 to this counter. And every time that I want to add 1 to the counter, I'll click add 1. As I said, it is a little bit slow, but it does work. And if you want to reset it, I've also set this reset button. So if I click that, it will set that back to 0 eventually. So I'm going to show you quickly how you can actually build something like this. So it does require one other database, which is this one. I've set it to appear empty, but it does actually have records within it that you can't see. So you can place that anywhere. So we're going to start by adding an inline database, and you just want to call this one counter, and you can also hide the title and just delete this tags property. We actually only need 1 row in this database, so I'm going to delete these second 2 rows, and in this row we're just going to name it counter, and I'm just going to add a little colon like this. Then we need a second database, so underneath I'm going to add a second inline database, and this one is going to be called counter records, and again just hide that title and delete the tags property. And I'm also just going to delete these rows as well. Next, we need to connect the 2 databases together, so we can use a relation property to do that. So on either of the databases, just click on the plus symbol, type in relation like this, and then you want to connect it to the other database. So I'm going to select the counter records database, and I'm just going to show it on both of these. So it's going to show on both of our databases, and just click add relation. Once you've done that, you should get a new column on each of the databases. And in this database, we just need to add 1 more property that is essentially just going to count the records in this database to give us a total, which we're going to use as our counter. So we're going to click on here to add a roll up, which is going to allow us to grab the data from this database, and we're just going to name this one count. For roll ups, you do need a relation, which obviously we've just set up that relation property. So you're going to click on here and just select the counter records, which is this database. The property you can leave as name, but for calculate, you actually want this to count, and you want it to count all. So it's just going to essentially count how many records are in this database. So it's currently empty, which is why it says 0. Now we actually want to change how our count looks. So I'm just going to click on here, select layout, and we're going to change it to a gallery. Firstly, I'm going to set the card preview to none because I don't want to see a cover photo. And for card size, I'm going to set that to small just so it doesn't take up so much room. Click back, and under properties, you just want to show that count roll up property, as you can see, so that it looks like this. So now we can start adding our buttons. So just above, I'm going to add in our first button, and this is going to be the one that adds 1 to the button. So let's just call it add 1, and I'm going to click on here, and the symbol we're going to use is going to be the plus symbol. Then we're going to click add an action, and we actually want it to add a page to our counter records database. So add page 2 and select counter records. You can leave the name as untitled, and we actually need it to edit one more property, and that's going to be this counter relation property. So this was the relation that we set up between the two databases, and you actually need to make sure that every record within this table is related to this counter box here. So if I click on here, it should only show up that one, as that's the only record in this database. So just click on that to make sure they're related together, and that's all we need to do. So I'm just going to click done. We can also add a green background color to this. So click on here, select color, and let's go with a green background. So when I click add 1, it's going to add a record here, as you can see, and then this count roll up that we set up is going to count how many records there are. So it's saying that there's 1. So if I add another one, it's going to add another record, and this will then update to 2. Then we want to add our reset button. So I'm going to add another button, and this one is going to be to reset the count back to 0. And let's just add this arrow. We're going to add an action, and this time it's going to be to edit the pages within our counter records database. And we're going to edit a property, and it's going to be the counter relation property. And if you click on here, we actually want to remove the record, and we're going to remove the relation with our counter page here. So essentially what this is going to do is it's going to remove this relation here from the existing records, and these records are only going to count towards the total if they're related to our counter page here. So this button is going to remove this record, which essentially just means it's not going to be counted towards our total. So once you've done that, you can click done. Let's change the color of this to a red background, and let's also place them side by side. So if you actually just grab the button and pull it to the side, once you see this little blue line, you're essentially creating 2 columns. So by doing that, you can place them side by side. So if I now click reset, as you can see, it's just removed the relation from these records, and the counter will then reset to 0. If I then add another one, as you can see, it's adding a new record, but this time there's only one that has the relation, which is why only that record is being counted. If I reset it, it goes blank. So this database here, you don't actually need to see, but it does need to exist. To clean things up, we can actually just add a filter for the name, and if you just set it to is not empty, it's just going to hide all of the records so that you don't need to see them. So you can just place this anywhere out of the way, and your counter will work even if this is on a different page. The next button is a button that will reset a checklist by unchecking all of your completed checkbox. So I use these all the time. So here is an example of a YouTube video checklist that I have. So these are all of the steps that make up that process. So as I go through filming my video, I'll check these off as I go, and they will disappear. But at the end, I want to be able to reset the checklist so that I can start again, but I don't want to have to input all of that details. So I can simply just click the reset button, and it's just going to reset the entire checklist for me. So this is actually a really simple button. So all you're going to need is a database. I've set this one up as a list layout, as you can see, and you simply just want to have a record for each of the different steps. You need a checkbox property, and then just add a filter where the done checkbox or your complete checkbox is set to unchecked. So that just means once you check them off, they disappear from the list. So let's now add that reset button so that I can bring all of these items back. So I'm going to type in button, and we're going to just call it reset. Again, feel free to add an icon. Then we're going to click add an action, and we want to edit the pages within the below database. So the database is just going to be whatever the checklist database is. We're going to edit a property, and it's simply going to be the done checkbox, and we want to set that to unchecked. So once you've done that, just click done, and if I click the button, my checklist is going to reappear because it's simply just unchecked all of these checkboxes. And the final use case that I'm going to show you today is using buttons for navigation and links. So these buttons will take you to various pages within your Notion workspace or to an external URL. So I've set up a couple of examples to show you what I mean. So the first one is a back to homepage button. So if you've got a main dashboard or homepage within your Notion, I would pop one of these buttons on pretty much every page within Notion so that you can easily get back to that main dashboard without having to search for it. So if you click on this button, it would simply just take you back to that dashboard. You can have other navigation buttons like this one, which is going to take you to, for example, a habit tracker page. And if you actually want to make your navigation even more simplified, you actually don't need to write text on buttons. You can actually just have the icon, which is what I've done here. And I've also just color coded it green. So you could add as many of these as you want. You could add many of these in a row just with an icon for easy navigation. And finally, Notion has actually recently added a new feature where you can actually use external URLs inside of buttons. So this one, I've just popped the URL to my YouTube channel. So if I click on that, it's simply just going to take me over to my actual YouTube channel, which is really cool. So this is actually a recent Notion update. You weren't able to input external URLs before, but you can now. So just quickly, I'll show you how you can do this. So you can just add a new button and obviously give it the name of whatever. Let's just say that you want to go to your habit tracker. So I'm just going to write habit tracker, give it an icon. And when you click add an action, you're going to click this open page or URL. So you can either select a page, let's say I want to open my dashboard, or alternatively, you can actually just paste in the external URL in here. And then you can set how you want it to appear. So most of the time you're going to want it to appear as a full page, but if you want it to open just as a center peak or a side peak, that's fine. I'm going to set this one to full page, click done. And then when you click this button, it's just going to navigate you over to that page. And that's it. That's 12 unique ways that you can use Notion buttons within your workspace. If you want to be even more productive, then make sure you check out my Second Brain template, which is an advanced productivity system. It has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. You can grab this template over on my store. I'll leave a link in the description box below.